The Verdict, a Sidebar production, hosted by Kent Myers and Mick Cornett. As a part of its traditional and continuing commitment to public and community service, Crow & Dunlevy sponsors The Verdict. Also sponsored by Delta Dental, Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, and C.H. Guernsey & Company. Each week on The Verdict, we present an objective discussion of contemporary and legal issues, topical issues that will affect Oklahomans in their daily lives. The Verdict, a Sidebar production.
And welcome to The Verdict. I'm Mick Cornett, and I am joined as always by one of Oklahoma's top legal experts, Kent Myers, and today we have two special guests.
Two special guests, and the office that we're going to be talking about today is the office of Oklahoma Attorney General, the people's lawyer. We're going to have both Commissioner Denise Bode and Attorney General Edmondson on in separate segments, and they'll each be asked the same number of questions, have the same time within which to respond, and have the same amount of time within which to look at the camera, tell the voters why they are the best candidate to be elected. And we believe that this is not only an important office, it's an important time for the office, a lot of things going on, and we want our viewers to leave this show with a better idea of for whom they're going to vote. The Attorney General's office is one of the biggest law firms in the state, has approximately 90 lawyers, has a lot of responsibilities representing you, the people of Oklahoma, and we're going to get to see the two people who are seeking that job.
Commissioner Bode is the Republican candidate.
Yes.
Attorney General Drew Edmondson is the Democratic candidate.
Correct.
And there is no independent candidate.
Right.
November 5th is when that election is coming up. It is getting closer, and we're offering you a chance to know the candidates a little bit better. Commissioner Denise Bode is our next guest, and we'll visit with her when we return. You're watching The Verdict with Mick Cornett and Kent Myers.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
The Verdict is pleased to have as a sponsor C.H. Guernsey & Company, providing architectural and engineering services to clients throughout the U.S. and around the world.
And Blankenship has stopped at the line of scrimmage. No gain on the play. Leading it 4th and 7 on the Tiger 46-yard line. 38 seconds on the clock. The Tigers have no choice but to go for it. Wiggins had to do the kicking. Here's the snap. And the kick is away.
All children deserve a life of hope and love. But sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all of the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. Oklahoma Lawyers for Children has over 350 of the best attorneys and volunteers in Oklahoma County who donate their time and services to represent children. For more information, call 405-23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
American Express Tax and Business Services. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. American Express Tax and Business Services. In Oklahoma City, the phone number is 405-843-5311.
This face catches our attention, but this number will catch the attention of political candidates. 90% of Oklahomans say they will vote for candidates who support early childhood issues. Sadly, not all the candidates have told us where they stand on these issues. Find out which candidates have plans to strengthen families with young children, offer preschool, improve the quality of child care, and ensure school readiness. Young children can't vote. They need you on November 5th. Paid for by Oklahomans for Future Progress.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, who's going to introduce our first guest.
Yeah, The Verdict is very pleased to have Commissioner Denise Bode, the Republican candidate for Attorney General. Commissioner Bode is the current chairman of the Oklahoma Corporation Commission and is a lawyer with the distinction that few lawyers in Oklahoma has. She has 2 law degrees. She has the undergraduate law degree, or the basic law degree, the JD degree, and also a master's in law. So she's well educated in the law, well beyond what is the normal requirement. She's a former legal counsel to U.S. Senator David Boren. In '99, she was the Oklahoma Journal's pick for Oklahoma Woman of the Year. She is married to John and has a son, Sean, and she has spent the great bulk of her professional career in the private business sector. She's running for Attorney General, did quite well to win the primary and in a convincing fashion, and we're sure pleased to have you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
For our viewers, we're going to ask Commissioner Bode 3 questions. She'll have approximately 2 minutes each to answer them, and let me start.
Thank you.
Commissioner, you have been criticized by your opponent you have criticized your opponent, I should say, for the Boy Scout brief that the Attorney General Edmondson filed in the United States Supreme Court case dealing with the selection of Boy Scout leaders.
That's right.
Why was the Attorney General misguided in filing that brief?
Well, I believe that brief was inappropriate, not only because, as the Boy Scouts themselves stated, it was an attack on their teachings and principles, but I also believe from an Oklahoman standpoint, it was adverse to our Oklahoma values and interest. The brief in short form is that the real issue was between the Boy Scouts telling an avowed homosexual that he could not be a scoutmaster because it violated their principles. He sued them, and on the basis of First Amendment principles, it was taken all the way to the Supreme Court. Our Attorney General jumped into the case, filing an amicus brief in the Supreme Court along with several other attorneys general.
And the amicus brief simply being a friend of the court.
A friend of the court brief, yes. And that brief, in essence, he said that the Boy Scouts principles were not superior to the rights of the government to tell them that they could not have freedom of association under the First Amendment. He's also said something that I think is pretty extraordinary. He said he filed it because it was a states' rights case. Well, clearly, states' rights is a 10th Amendment. As lawyers, we know that, a 10th Amendment issue, and it deals with the tension between federal and state government laws. And 10th Amendment wasn't mentioned once in the brief, not once, that he filed. It's clearly a First Amendment case. In fact, a dear friend, Judge Robert Bork, said in a letter to me on the subject, he said, "Your opponent's assertion that the Dale case was about states' rights reflects a serious misunderstanding. Thinking people will understand there's a fundamental difference between legitimate states' rights and a state's attempt to destroy constitutional guarantees of liberty, including the First Amendment right to freedom of association." Oklahoma had no business signing on to that attack against the Boy Scouts.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bode, you've been urging a strong consumer advocacy role for this position. Have you been dissatisfied with the current Attorney General and his role in that?
I think the Attorney General should do much more in a variety of areas. I think as a consumer advocate, you know, I've spent the last 5 years on the bench of the Commission hearing over 800 cases. The Attorney General has chosen on several occasions not to present evidence on some of those major issues, on natural gas issues, when we found gas purchases were imprudent. I took the initiative on a cause where people were getting slammed, having their phone service changed illegally, over 50,000 Oklahomans. I went after telemarketers before it was politically correct or popular to do it, and we actually increased penalties and prosecuted that corporate wrongdoing. And I think the Attorney General shouldn't be taking the lead in supporting that reckless electric deregulation that he supported 2 years ago, 2 months before we had rolling blackouts in California. I also think the Attorney General's office ought to take more of a leadership role, and this is an area we really disagree on, in going after meth labs in the state. We're #1 in methamphetamine in the state of Oklahoma, And I think that I would redefine that role. I think that is the job of the Attorney General. So I think on consumer issues he needs to be an advocate, and I would redefine the role and provide more leadership using my business experience and my leadership experience at the Corporation Commission.
Thank you. I want to ask you a question that I will tell our viewers in advance. We're going to ask this very same question
Yes.
to the next guest, the Attorney General. Each of you have been critical of the other insofar as campaign contributions. Would you like to respond to the criticism that's been leveled against you, and also tell the viewers what your criticism is of the campaign contribution procedure carried out by the Attorney General?
Absolutely. The Attorney General has been interesting in his comments about campaign finance. I actually adhere to higher, stricter standards on campaign finance than does most state officials. And in fact, I don't take contributions from anyone that's not an individual, no companies. And in fact, I have refused to take PAC contributions from utilities because we regulate them. Unlike the Attorney General, and I think this is an issue, he takes large contributions from political action committees of utilities, and he is a statutory consumer advocate. And I think that's a betrayal of consumers. He has admitted that he has not reported, he has reported now, but he didn't report several fundraising efforts by tobacco lawyers when they fundraised on corporate letterhead. He reported that. And fundamentally right now, I have an objection to the Attorney General skirting campaign finance laws or by manipulating a campaign committee so that when after the last election, for example, he had raised almost $100,000 in the black, you know, and then he started fundraising again. He did not create a new campaign committee, and he started fundraising after his last election, raised significant amount of money, $60-some thousand, and then he created a new committee, rolled that previous money into the new committee, and then he raised money again from the same individuals, from tobacco lawyers who had received over $4,000 an hour on the tobacco settlement, and from the Cimarron Gay and Lesbian Alliance, over the $5,000 legal limit since the last election, you know, a way of skirting the law. And I think that demonstrates a lack of integrity and a lack of a disregard for the law.
About a minute 15 for you to face our audience and tell them whatever you'd like to tell them here as we get closer to the election.
Thank you so much. I believe that the Attorney General should defend Oklahoma values of faith, family, and freedom. I want to use my extensive experience in the private sector, hearing cases at the Commission, to be a real consumer advocate. I want to wipe out methamphetamine in the state of Oklahoma that endangers our families. And I want to be a real advocate, putting families first, trying to bring the kind of fighting for Oklahoma interest and values in the courts. I think that Oklahoma deserves that kind of Attorney General, someone who's going to be principled and who's going to put them first, and not someone that has basically promoted his own liberal agenda. There's a real clear choice between a conservative here and someone has promoted his own personal liberal agenda.
Commissioner Bode, thank you for coming by and visiting with us.
Thank you.
Kent and I will be back, and we'll introduce Attorney General Drew Edmondson when we return.
Thanks.
Let me say happy birthday to Crow Dunlevy, one of the prestigious law firms in the state of Oklahoma. And our relationship over the last 20 years that I've been state auditor, I've grown to appreciate that law firm more and more each year, and each time we have business to transact together. Their community involvement, as well as the knowledge to bring to the law firm, is something that Oklahoma should be very proud of. I know I am. And at 100 years in business, you can't be all bad by doing that. And I salute you, congratulate you, and wish you a very happy birthday.
We are C.H. Guernsey and Company. We provide engineering, architecture, and consulting services to clients across the nation and around the world. Our corporate headquarters are located in Oklahoma City, and we have branch offices across the country, including Tulsa. We have provided quality service to clients for nearly 75 years. At Guernsey, we believe in quality work, and unconditional client satisfaction. To learn more about C.H. Guernsey & Company, log on to our website at chguernsey.com.
St. Gregory's University has been changing the lives of people like me for 125 years. Affordable private Catholic education, balanced with dedication to community and service, makes St. Gregory special. We're extremely proud of our students' outstanding academic achievements and our nationally ranked athletic teams. It's when you help a student build a future of balance, integrity, and service that you change a life forever. St. Gregory's, a community for life.
I enrich our cultural landscape.
I help define our quality of life.
I am one of 4,000 artists in central Oklahoma who receive
support from Allied Arts, this community's united arts organization.
I am an Allied artist.
We are back. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers on The Verdict. We're talking to Democratic Attorney General candidate Drew Edmondson. Kent?
Yes, I'd like to welcome the Attorney General to our set, and let me give our viewers a little introduction, although probably most of them know a lot about him. He is the incumbent Attorney General, twice elected statewide to that post, has served 8 years in that position. Prior to that time, he was the District Attorney for Muskogee County for 10 years, trying all kinds of civil and criminal matters over there, principally criminal. As an undergraduate degree in education, a law degree from the University of Tulsa, Drew served in the Navy, is a Vietnam veteran, and is married to Linda with 2 children. Attorney General Edmondson, thank you very much for coming back. This is your, I believe, 4th appearance on The Verdict, and we're glad to have you.
Love the show, and I got to confess, my children are grown up. They're still my children, but they're not little kids anymore.
Let's start out with a question for you. You've been criticized by your opponent for the dollars that were distributed to the Oklahoma lawyers that represented Oklahoma in the tobacco settlement. Were these fees really earned by these lawyers, and what is your comment about that criticism?
Well, probably several comments. I think the most important for people to understand is that the attorney fees did not come out of Oklahoma's settlement. They were awarded by an arbitration panel made up of representatives of the tobacco industry, representatives of the states, and then those two picked a third. And the arbitration panel unanimously recommended the fee that was awarded, which was $250 million for all of the law firms that were involved on the behalf of the state of Oklahoma, and it was on top of the settlement that we received of a little over $2 billion. People also have to understand that these lawyers went 2.5 years on this case, every appearance, every motion hearing, every deposition, without earning a dime and without really knowing whether they were going to earn a dime at the end of the process. No one had ever won a lawsuit against the tobacco industry in the history of the world. And finally, they should appreciate the fact that the lawyers, all of them, agreed to settle, to liquidate their attorney fee claims for less than $100 million. And the tobacco industry refused, insisted on the arbitration, and that's what the arbitration panel awarded. I think they were fair and reasonable fees considering the amount of the recovery for the state, over $2 billion, and the injunctive relief that we gained against the tobacco industry.
Thank you.
You've been emphasizing your experience as a prosecutor during the campaign. Why do you feel that that's so important?
Well, not just my experience as a prosecutor. I was DA for 10 years in Muskogee, but I was in private practice for 5 years, trying all kinds of cases. I did criminal defense as a private attorney in Muskogee, as well as civil work. And all of that experience, courtroom and out of the courtroom, has been extremely valuable to me as Attorney General. In opinion conference, in making charging decisions, in making strategic decisions on civil litigation. I can look back at the experience that I've had as a courtroom lawyer and as a business lawyer, and it's been extremely helpful to me. For instance, in this argument over the Boy Scouts, I know the difference between an amicus brief, which stresses a particular point of law, and suing someone. My opponent has always said that we sued the Boy Scouts, and that's not true. We filed an amicus brief insisting on states' rights for New Jersey. The deans of the 3 law schools have examined that brief and said it was a states' rights issue, that it was not advocating homosexuals being scout leaders. It was arguing that the state of New Jersey had a right to its own statute. And having been a lawyer, I know the difference between an amicus brief and a lawsuit.
Attorney General, I asked this same question of Commissioner Bode when she was with us a few minutes ago. Each of you have been critical of the other in the area of campaign finance. Would you like to have an opportunity, and would you please tell our viewers what your assessment is of your own fundraising methods and your opponent's fundraising methods?
Well, I've been very pleased with our fundraising efforts. We've raised an amount of money sufficient to wage this campaign, and I'm pleased with it. We were very studious in avoiding raising any money from people who had business in the Attorney General's office. If someone had a lawsuit pending or was representing a client who had a lawsuit pending that the state was involved in, we either wouldn't solicit, or if they offered a contribution, returned it. Now, I've accepted a lot of contributions from lawyers. I have a lot of friends who are lawyers. That's what happens when you practice law. You develop friendships among the legal profession, but not ones that had business before the Attorney General's office. And I have been critical of Ms. Bode for accepting literally hundreds of thousands of dollars from companies and industries and individuals who do have business before the Corporation Commission, oil and gas in particular, but also trucking and telecommunications and other people. And you got to realize that if she loses this race, which I think she will, she's going to be on the Corporation Commission for another 2 years. So when the Corporation Commissioner calls you up and asks for a contribution, I think it's a great deal of pressure. And I think she should have avoided raising money from people who had business before the regulatory agency that she's a member of. So that's the essential difference. We both raised a lot of money, but I don't raise money from people that I regulate. I don't raise money from people who have business before the AG's office.
I have a couple of minutes left in this segment. I'd like to give you an opportunity just to face the camera, to talk to the voters and speak your mind.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to do that. And unfortunately, in some of these campaigns, the attacks and counterattacks get kind of mean, particularly in the closing days of a race. And I regret the opportunity not to focus more on the vision that we have for the Attorney General's office over the next 4 years. We have some big cases pending. We have cases pending against Enron, against WorldCom for losses to our pension funds, cases pending against major pharmaceutical companies whom we allege have artificially jacked up the prices of prescription drugs. We have the Arkansas River Bridge suit that's still pending. We're neck deep in the investigation of the Tax Commission and have asked for an investigative audit of the Tourism Department. These things are ongoing, and the ability of the Attorney General's office to be an advocate for taxpayers, an advocate for consumers, an advocate for seniors, an advocate in the area of domestic violence. These are the kinds of things that we should be talking about during the course of the last week or so of this campaign, and I hope we can do that. I think we've done a good job in the Attorney General's office representing the people of the state of Oklahoma, not just in the tobacco suit, but across the board. And I hope to continue that vision over the next 4 years.
Attorney General Drew Edmondson, thanks for being on The Verdict.
Thank you, Drew.
We'll be right back.
For Crow and Dunleavy, I've both given and received. I've given my daughter, an associate, and I've also received Crow and Dunleavy legal services. I think Carrie's a pretty capable person, and the legal services I've received have been first rate. But what most impresses me about Crow and Dunleavy is its long-term commitment to the state and to the community. Service is everything to the law firm, a full-service firm of outstanding, integrity-filled people. Happy birthday, Crow and Dunleavy. Have another 100 years of great success.
I want to congratulate Crow Dunleavy not just for reaching this wonderful milestone of its 100th anniversary, but for establishing during that 100 years the highest standards of integrity and professionalism and dedicated public service that's really set the mold and set the standard for law practitioners throughout the state of Oklahoma and throughout the nation.
This face catches our attention, but this number will catch the attention of political candidates. 90% of Oklahomans say they will vote for candidates who support early childhood issues. Sadly, not all the candidates have told us where they stand on these issues. Find out which candidates have plans to strengthen families with young children, offer preschool, improve the quality of child care, and ensure school readiness. Young children can't vote. They need you on November 5th. Paid for by Oklahomans for Future Progress.
We are C.H. Guernsey and Company. We provide engineering, architecture, and consulting services to clients across the nation and around the world. Our corporate headquarters are located in Oklahoma City, and we have branch offices across the country, including Tulsa. We have provided quality service to clients for nearly 75 years. At Guernsey, we believe in quality work and unconditional client satisfaction. To learn more about C.H. Guernsey and Company, log on to our website at chguernsey.com.
Bringing out the best in each student. That is the simple goal and tradition of Heritage Hall. The focus on the individual shapes the educational experience at Heritage Hall. Each student benefits from small classes, able, dedicated teachers, a solid academic curriculum, and exceptional co-curricular programs of athletics, arts, community service, and other activities, parental involvement, personalized counseling, and the development of responsibility, integrity, and love of learning. If you want education taught with pride, then you want Heritage Hall.
We are back to wrap up another edition of The Verdict. Kent?
We've heard from Drew Edmondson and Denise Bode. They're both seeking the same office, the highest legal office in the state of Oklahoma, the Attorney General's office, the office that represents you, the citizens of Oklahoma, in many, many, many different types of proceedings. A huge 90-person law firm is run by the Attorney General, and it's a very important, significant office. They both have vast experience in getting to this position. And the voters of Oklahoma, frankly, have a choice between good and good. I think they'll both do well.
November 5th is the date of the election, and you'll have an opportunity, though, to cast a vote before then on our website. Go to theverdict.tv, and once you get there, you'll see, of course, some smiling pictures of Kent and myself, but also an opportunity for you to vote for one of those two candidates and tell us what you think. And also, if you have any ideas for future shows on The Verdict, feel free to email us and let us know. Thanks again to our candidates, the Attorney General, Drew Edmondson, and Commissioner Denise Bode. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next time on The Verdict.